My crush at work turns out to be Black Widow. Funny, huh? Yeah. I work at an advertising agency. Sounds glamorous, right? Halbert and Wolf. Midtown building, open concept, glass offices, the usual buzzwords on posters. Disrupt. Innovate. But in reality, most days feel mundane. Emails, meetings, pushing campaigns through approval chains that never end. I've been here 4 years. I know where the coffee's strongest, which printer jams the most. It's not a bad job, just kind of routine. Until Nina showed up. She started on a Monday. Dean, our manager, brought her around to a few desks, said she'd be joining the strategy team. He smiled a little too much when he talked to her. Nina didn't say much, just nodded, made brief eye contact, and moved on. She is obviously very beautiful, but there's something else. She is different, not in a flashy way, just sharp, like she noticed everything in the room the moment she walked in. The way her posture was perfectly upright, how she scanned the space before choosing where to sit. Small things. But I noticed Dean gave her the best desk on the floor. Corner spot near the windows. Dual monitors. Brand new laptop. That kind of setup usually takes months here. The next morning, she had an ergonomic chair. Dean offered to walk her through the office systems himself. He never did that for anyone else. Half the team had to learn through Google Docs and guesswork. But with Nina, he practically hovered, kept checking in, stopped by her desk more than I'd ever seen him move. Over the next few days, people tried to talk to her. Casual stuff. Where are you from? What agency were you at before? She answered, but kept it short. Said she freelanced for a while. Said she liked to keep things quiet. She didn't join for lunch. She left work right at 5. She didn't touch the snack bar. I wouldn't say I was obsessed, but I was curious. She worked fast. Really fast. I watched her build out a full strategic deck in less than a day, something that would have taken most of us at least 3. And she never wrote anything down. No sticky notes. No to-do lists. Everything stayed in her head. There was this one moment that stuck with me. She was carrying a huge water jug toward the break room, the kind we usually struggle with, and she just lifted it like it weighed nothing. No struggle, no reaction, just quiet efficiency. Something about her didn't quite add up. People chalked it up to nerves, being new, or maybe being too serious. But I've seen new people before. Nina didn't seem nervous. She seemed trained. At some point I caught her looking at me, not in a flirtatious way, more like she was evaluating me, like she was wondering how much I knew. In the following weeks, Nina settled in at work quickly. Though she barely spoke in meetings when she did, people listened. Her comments were precise, sometimes even blunt, but never wrong. She could summarize a client's entire strategy flaw in one sentence and offer a fix before anyone else had even processed the brief. One time I walked by her screen. No social media, just a blank document with numbers, lines, and codes, like she was running analysis on something unrelated to our projects. Another time I saw her standing in the stairwell, completely still, just listening, like she was waiting for something. I said hi. She nodded and walked away. One day Trish, who never notices anything, leaned over and whispered, "She's giving me assassin vibes." I laughed, but not entirely. Then came the night I stayed late. I had a pitch the next day and I was behind on revisions. Everyone else had cleared out. Even Dean. Around 9 p.m. I stepped outside to get some air. There's a side alley between our building and the parking garage. Usually empty. That night, it wasn't. 3 guys, mid-30s, unmarked van nearby. They were surrounding someone. I thought it might be a mugging. Then I realized it was Nina. No screaming. No panic. She looked calm. One guy reached toward her and she moved so fast I barely followed what happened. She pivoted, slammed her elbow into his throat, spun low, and swept the legs out from under the second guy. The third one tried to grab her. She flipped him over her shoulder and knocked him out with a single kick to the chest. All 3 were on the ground within seconds. Nina didn't hesitate. She walked straight to the van, opened the back door, checked something inside, and slammed it shut. Then she looked around. I ducked behind the dumpster, heart pounding. I don't think she saw me. Or maybe she did. I honestly couldn't tell. She just walked off like nothing happened. I stood there for maybe 5 minutes before I could move again. Eventually, I went back upstairs, packed up my laptop, and left. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying it in my head, over and over. There was no question anymore. Nina wasn't just odd, she was dangerous, and I had no idea what I was caught up in. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She walked in right on time. Same calm steps. Same black boots. Opened her laptop and started working like she hadn't taken down 3 grown men less than 12 hours earlier. I sat at my desk trying not to stare. My hands were sweating. I had a horrible headache. I spent 2 hours pretending to organize files on my computer while constantly peeking at her. I didn't know if I should confront her or act like I hadn't seen anything. She beat me to it. Around noon, she walked past my desk on her way to the kitchenette. As she passed, she said without looking at me, "Come with me." And that was it. No explanation. Just that. 10 minutes later, we were in the stairwell. The door shut behind us. We were alone. She didn't bother pretending anymore. "I know you were there last night," she said. I blinked. I didn't know what to say. She then looked at me directly into my eyes and said, "I'm Black Widow, and I'm here on a mission." And just like that. No dramatic pause. No explanation. Like she was telling me she forgot her lunch. I stood there completely frozen. I was too stunned to even be skeptical. I mean, it made sense. In a way that terrified me, she continued. "Your CEO, Carrington, isn't who you think he is. He's laundering money and selling illegal tech to international clients. High-level stuff. Weapons systems. Surveillance software. He uses this company to clean the money." My jaw dropped. "What? So all this time I've been working for a high-level criminal?" She read my mind perfectly. "Most people here don't know." She stepped closer, lowered her voice. "I'm here to collect information, but I'm new. I don't have clearance to access files I need." I just stared at her. "I've seen your name in the internal logs. You have access to archived billing records, legacy folders, the client database." Then she added something I wasn't expecting. "If I can get into that system, I might be able to track down the clients. Some of them are bigger than Carrington. He's a middleman, but they're the ones moving money and product. This could open doors to shutting down entire supply lines." She was so close to me I could feel her warmth and breathing. I felt like I could almost touch her long wavy hair. I knew this was not the time, but my mind wondered for a second. How would it feel to have her soft, lush hair wrapped around my fingers? Just then, she snapped me right back to reality. The rest of the day, I sat at my desk like I was glued to the chair, heart hammering from the stairwell conversation. I felt like I had two choices: walk away and pretend none of it ever happened, or lean in and become part of something I barely understood. That night, I opened the client database, not because I had to, but because I wanted to know if she was telling the truth. And she was. Accounts tied to fake companies. Money moving in strange amounts to marketing consultants with no traceable IDs. A few names I recognized from meetings, others I'd never seen before, all tucked neatly behind legitimate campaign briefs. She wasn't lying. And now I was involved. The next day, I slipped her a USB with billing logs hidden inside a manila folder labeled Q4 Performance Reports. She picked it up from the supply room without saying a word. No eye contact, just smooth practiced movement. That became our routine. No conversations during the day. Just quiet file transfers, encrypted folders, flash drives passed behind recycled reports. But after hours, things changed. One night, I was finishing a late-night pitch. She stepped into the break room without knocking. Hoodie, boots, expression unreadable, but her presence filled the space like it always did. She glanced at the vending machine. "Anything in there that won't kill me in 5 years?" she asked. I handed her a protein bar. "Only if you eat it slowly," she smirked. And for the first time, I saw something different. Less guarded, a little amused. That night, she sat down across from me with a coffee I didn't see her make. We started trading notes, file names. We didn't talk much at first, but something was building. A rhythm, a quiet partnership. And then something else. It hit me gradually. The way she thought, sharp, layered, 3 steps ahead of everyone. The calm in her voice when she explained how client invoices were used to reroute international payments. The subtle way she moved through the building, like she knew where every camera was. Like she could disappear in a heartbeat if she needed to. She wasn't just dangerous. She was stunning. Not only in the surface level way people talk about looks, I mean her eyes, her lips, and her body, everything is perfect. But also the way she carried herself. Every motion was deliberate, efficient, beautiful in a way that caught you off guard because it was built from control, not performance. I started to notice small things. The way her eyes locked onto a screen when she was deep in a file. The low tone of her voice when she was focused. The rare fleeting moments when she smiled, soft, almost private, like she was letting you in for half a second before the door closed again. One night, she leaned over my shoulder to scan a spreadsheet I was sorting through. "Client number 42792. He's one of Carrington's core buyers," she said. Her voice was close to my ear. I didn't move, and I realized I hadn't taken a breath in 10 seconds. This wasn't just adrenaline anymore. I was falling for her, and I knew how dangerous that was. We never talked about it. There wasn't room for it. But something was there. A shared glance that lasted too long. A smirk after I beat her to a file she'd been trying to decrypt. A pause when our hands brushed over the same USB drive. She started making jokes, dry ones usually, the kind that came out of nowhere but landed perfectly. "Did you always dream of corporate espionage, or was this more of a mid-career pivot?" she asked one night. "Honestly, I just wanted to finish my PowerPoint." "You're living the dream," she said, sipping coffee like a Bond villain in yoga pants. We were playing with fire, and we both knew it. But for a while, it felt like we were untouchable. Before long, they were onto us. It didn't happen all at once. It started with little things. An email I never remembered opening showing up as read. A shared folder I swore was private now suddenly had last accessed by Dean in the corner. Trish mentioned in passing that Dean asked her what I'd been working on lately. Then I noticed the cameras, new ones, quietly installed in the common areas, outside the break room, near the elevators, even in the copy room where we'd been doing our handoffs. Dean didn't announce them. He just sent out a casual email for security. HQ policy. No big deal, except it was a big deal. Nina didn't say anything, but she started being more careful. No more USBs, no more printed files. We stuck to short glances, silent nods, late-night exchanges when we were sure no one else was around. But even then I felt it, the weight of someone watching, listening, waiting. I'd be walking home and hear footsteps behind me. Not always close, but always just near enough to keep my nerves wired. One night I circled the block 3 times before heading home. Another night I found my apartment door half closed when I knew I had locked it. Nothing was missing. But everything felt wrong. When I told Nina, she didn't try to downplay it. She looked straight at me and said, "You need to stop helping me." Her voice was calm, but her eyes weren't. "I'll finish the mission on my own," she said. "You've done more than enough. You're not trained for this." And they're starting to close in. That night, we met in a quiet little Vietnamese restaurant tucked between a laundromat and a guitar shop. She picked the place. Dim lights, faded menus, no one looking twice at a tired couple eating late. We sat by the window pretending to share pho. I barely touched mine. She didn't eat at all. The silence between us was heavier than usual. "You should quit," she said. "Just like that?" She nodded. "Disappear. Wipe your drives. Take a normal job. Let this go." I didn't say anything. I just watched her, the way she sat, composed, distant. She looked like someone who'd said goodbye too many times already, but I couldn't bring myself to walk away. I tried. For a few days, I kept my head down, focused on client calls, avoided her. But it only got worse. Trish stopped talking to me. Said she didn't want to get dragged into anything. I hadn't told her anything, but maybe she saw something. Maybe someone said something. And then came the moment I couldn't ignore. I was walking past the closed conference room one night. Late again, as usual. I heard Dean's voice. Low. Angry. "Moving too much. We need to clean it out before anyone looks too close. And get rid of him. He's been poking around." I froze. Another voice responded. I couldn't make out the words, but I knew what I heard. They weren't talking about Nina. They were talking about me. After that night, something in me shifted. I stopped digging. I stopped sending files. I stopped everything. I deleted the shared folders. I removed my name from the approval chains. I scrubbed my local drive and ran a VPN over every connection. I even stopped going to the break room after 5 p.m. I didn't text Nina. I didn't meet her. I didn't say goodbye. I told myself it was for my safety. That if I just laid low, things would blow over. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just fear. It was doubt. I started wondering, what if I got played? What if she knew I was expendable the entire time? What if the whole thing, the vending machine jokes, the late night conversations, the way she looked at me was part of the job? Or worse, what if it wasn't? What if it was real? And I left her alone in the middle of it. I avoided her for a week, then another, and yet I still thought about her. Constantly. I'd catch myself watching the door every time someone came into the office. I'd wake up from dreams where she was calling for help, only to disappear before I could reach her. I told myself it was over. Then came the night I saw her again. I had stayed late, out of habit more than anything. The building was quiet, and I was walking down the back stairs instead of taking the elevator. When I opened the door to the alley, she was there, standing still, leaning against the wall like she'd been waiting. We didn't speak at first. The noise of the city filled the space between us. A train in the distance, a siren a few streets over, the buzz of a street lamp overhead. Finally, I said, I heard them. Dean, Carrington. They know about me. She nodded slowly. That's why I told you to walk away. I tried, not hard enough. We stood there a while longer, neither of us ready to say what we really meant. Then I asked the question that had been eating at me. Did you ever care? Or was I just convenient access? Her expression didn't change, but her voice did. You were more helpful than you know. But no, I didn't use you. She looked down at the ground for a second. You helped when you didn't have to. You stayed longer than you should have. That matters. I wanted to believe her. But I still didn't know if I could. Before she left, she said one last thing. I'm almost done. Just a few more pieces to fall into place? Stay out of it. Please. Then she vanished again, and I went home wondering how long I could pretend I wasn't still in the middle of this. A couple of days later, as I was walking by the break room, Carrington's voice came through the cracked conference door. Before the sweep. Get everything off the books. I want them gone before anyone gets spooked. That word, sweep, hit me like a switch flipped. They were cleaning house, hiding what was left, tying off loose ends. I was a loose end, and if Nina was still digging, so was she. The next day, I met with Nina after work. I want back in, I said. She hesitated. You sure? No, I said. But I'm doing it anyway. For a second, she almost smiled. We laid out the plan in pieces, neutral locations, whispered details. She needed someone inside the upcoming client dinner, a private event Carrington was hosting at a downtown rooftop lounge. I had already RSVP'd as part of the strategy team. All I had to do was act like I belonged. I'll plant a recorder, I said. Catch them in the open. Clients, transfers, whatever they say. She looked at me for a long moment. This is the point of no return, she said. I crossed that weeks ago, I said. The night of the event, I wore my best suit. Tried to look like someone who belonged among champagne glasses and rooftop fire pits. Carrington was working the room like a politician, shaking hands, laughing too loudly. I slipped the recorder under one of the drink trays and started mingling. Casual small talk, nothing suspicious. Then Trish showed up. I didn't expect her to be there. She must have been invited last minute. She pulled me aside while pretending to fix her bracelet. I know something's going on, she whispered. You look like a man who hasn't slept in a month. And Nina? That girl's got a game plan. I started to panic, but she cut me off. I'm not here to snitch. I just want to know what I'm walking into. I paused, then told her just enough to buy her silence. I need a distraction. Something to pull Dean away from the terrace for 5 minutes. She rolled her eyes. Fine. But you owe me lunch. For a month. 10 minutes later, she tripped a waiter carrying a full tray of shrimp skewers. The crash sent everyone spinning. Dean rushed over, flustered and red-faced. It worked. I slipped toward the terrace and positioned myself behind a large planter near Carrington and 2 men in dark suits. I didn't catch everything, but I heard enough. Once the account clears, move the funds to Tier 4. I don't care if it's flagged, just scrub the source. I checked the mic. It was still running, still recording. Then I heard a click behind me, and a voice. You really shouldn't be here. The voice was low, calm, dangerous. I turned slowly. It was one of Carrington's security guys. I'd seen him before, always standing just outside the CEO's office, always pretending to check his phone. Now his jacket was open, and I could see the outline of something holstered at his side. I tried to play it off. Got lost looking for the restroom, I said, smiling too fast. He didn't smile back. He grabbed my arm hard. Let's go. He didn't say where. I didn't ask. He walked me down a service stairwell, pushing me faster than I could think. The recorder was still running in my jacket pocket, but my heart was pounding too loud to tell if it was even working. At the bottom, he opened a side door and shoved me into a loading bay. Dean was already there, hands in his pockets, calm, smiling like a man who'd just won something. You've been busy, he said. I didn't respond. You think you're some kind of hero? You think you're going to bring this place down with a flash drive and a few whispers? He took a few steps forward. You don't know what you're doing, kid. You poked your nose in the wrong place. Now you're a problem, and I make problems go away. He nodded once. The guy behind me pulled something from his jacket, and then the lights above us flickered. A loud bang echoed off the walls. Something crashed onto the hood of a parked van nearby. And out of the shadows, Nina. She moved like she had been waiting for this moment. She dropped from the upper level and took out the first guy with a spinning kick before he could draw his weapon. He hit the wall and crumpled without a sound. Dean pulled something from his coat, but she was faster. She knocked his arm sideways, disarmed him with a brutal twist, and slammed him into the metal side of a crate. He collapsed. She turned to me, breathing hard, eyes scanning every exit. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded, stunned. "How did you—" "I had backup on you, in case you got stupid." I almost laughed, but my hands were still shaking too much. She grabbed the recorder from my pocket, checked the audio. Her expression shifted. "This is it," she said. "This is enough." We didn't go back inside. We left the building through the freight doors and disappeared into the night, blending into the noise of the city. In a quiet alley 2 blocks away, we stopped to talk. "I've already sent the files to the Bureau anonymously. The strike will come in the next 48 hours. The whole operation's going down." I was still catching my breath. "What about Carrington?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked out toward the end of the alley, where the streetlight spilled across the brick. Her face was half in shadow, but her profile was lit in silver. The curve of her cheek, the faint line of a cut on her jaw. The wind moved her hair slightly, catching a glint of red in the moonlight. "He's gone," she said. "But I'll track him down." She turned back to me, eyes focused and sharp again. I nodded slowly. She was already shifting back into mission mode, but I could see something else behind her eyes now, something unguarded. A trace of sorrow she didn't bother hiding. She stepped closer, not rushed, just present. "I meant what I said," she whispered. "Thank you. You didn't have to help me. You didn't even have to believe me." I looked at her then, not just as the operative or the mystery I'd been chasing, but as her. Strong, smart, beautiful, unbreakable, and still, somehow human underneath it all. There was so much I wanted to say. About the nights we spent decoding files, about the way she made danger feel like purpose, about how, even in the silence, she made me feel seen. But there wasn't time. She reached out, not a hug, not dramatic, just the briefest touch of her hand against my chest, like an anchor, like she wanted to remember something about me. Then she stepped back, turned once into the alley. The last thing I saw was the outline of her figure in the moonlight, steady, graceful, already fading into the dark, and then she was gone. The next morning I came into work and everything felt wrong. Too quiet, too still. Dean's desk was empty. Carrington's office blinds were shut tight. Half the team hadn't shown up. A few people were whispering near the printer. No one knew anything for sure, but everyone knew something was off. At 11:07 the fire alarm went off. But there was no smoke, no panic. Just the sound of heavy footsteps on tile and the thud of doors being kicked open. Within minutes, federal agents swarmed the building. Badges, gloves, headsets. They moved fast like they'd rehearsed every inch of the floor plan. Some stormed Carrington's office. Others headed for IT, creative, and strategy. The break room was sealed. They unplugged every server they could find. People froze at their desks. Someone tried to sneak out the side exit and got escorted right back in by 2 agents. By noon, they had every floor locked down. They were pulling staff one by one into meeting rooms, questioning them, collecting statements, going through inboxes and hard drives on the spot. 2 designers were let out in handcuffs. 1 exec fainted. Someone in HR threw up in the stairwell. I sat still, completely still. Hands on my keyboard, eyes locked on my monitor like I was trying to become invisible. But eventually one of them came for me too. He was calm. Polite even. "Mind stepping into room 3C, he said. I nodded and followed him. Inside, the mood shifted. The room was quiet. 2 agents sat across from me. No yelling, just firm questions and watchful eyes. "Your name's been on multiple access logs tied to restricted archives," one of them said. "Can you walk us through what you've been working on lately?" I didn't mention Nina, not once. Instead, I leaned on the truth they already suspected. There were inconsistencies in the billing reports, I said. Red flags, fake vendors, backdated campaigns. I started pulling files, cross-referencing names. I didn't know how far it went, but I knew something was wrong. They asked if I still had access to the internal archive system. I said yes. "Would you be willing to help us navigate it?" I hesitated, then nodded. Of course, they led me to an isolated terminal they had set up in what used to be the marketing war room. I walked them through old folders, shell account tags, Carrington's hidden invoice logic. I showed them how names were scrubbed, how clients were disguised using mirrored ad accounts, how payments were buried under media buys that never happened. I didn't tell them who would show me where to look, but I helped them see it. By the time I left that day, the office was in pieces. Desks emptied, screens black, posters ripped off the walls. A framed Employee of the Month photo lay shattered on the floor near the stairwell, and the headlines came fast. "Major ad agency under federal investigation for fraud, tech laundering. Basha disappears as feds close in. Whistleblower tied to international arms deal exposure." That part wasn't me. That was Nina. She didn't just take down a company. She pulled the first thread. The files she'd sent out were too clean, too comprehensive to ignore. Now every agency with a badge and a clearance level was chasing leads across continents, offshore accounts, disappearing suppliers, hidden buyers in Dubai, Singapore, Berlin. What started in our little office turned into something global, something massive. A chain reaction still spreading. Carrington, of course, had vanished. No security footage, no card swipes, no trace, like he'd been airlifted out by a ghost. Then, a few days later, I saw his name in the news again, not alive this time. Former CEO found dead in remote crash. Private helicopter lost over Baltic coast. The article called it an accident, mechanical failure. But the timing, the circumstances, I didn't need confirmation. The moment I saw that headline, I knew. Nina had finished it. After the takedown, Halbert and Wolf didn't just stumble, it crumbled. The brand was too toxic. The board disbanded. The offices were sold off and gutted within weeks. Everyone moved on. Some changed careers entirely. Others tried to quietly join smaller firms. A few names showed up on news threads and Reddit forums for months, but the noise eventually faded. Trish and I still talk. We never really had to say anything directly about what happened. We just kept in touch. She moved to Chicago and now works with a creative collective doing sustainable branding. It suits her. Last we talked, she adopted a gray cat that knocks over her plants every morning. We joke about the past now and then, but there's an understanding beneath the laughs. She knows I went further into it than anyone else. She never asked how deep. As for me, I'm doing better than I expected. A few months after the dust settled, I took a job at a different agency. Smaller, smarter, more focused. They gave me a senior role, more responsibility. I work with actual transparency now. Real people, real campaigns. I sleep better. I even started seeing someone. She's nice. We keep it light. Movies, lazy Sunday mornings, walks downtown. She's kind and steady. There's no danger in her eyes. And for now, that's exactly what I need. Still, sometimes I catch myself walking past alleyways and wondering what it would be like if she stepped out again. Then one morning a postcard arrived. No return address, no name, just a photo of a quiet harbor somewhere. Bright boats bobbing on water like glass, red-tiled rooftops under a pale blue sky. I didn't recognize the place, but I didn't have to. The handwriting on the back was small, clean, unmistakable. You were braver than you think. Thank you. Ian, I stood at the kitchen counter holding it like it was fragile, like if I blinked too hard it might vanish. Not because I was confused, but because I knew it would be the last time she reached out. I still think about her. The way her hair caught the light when she turned to leave. The calm, grounded way she moved through the world, like she was built for storms. And yet, under all of it, that rare softness I only glimpsed in moments we never talked about. She's gone now, off chasing ghosts of her own. Maybe working for someone else. Maybe working alone. Probably not using the name Nina anymore. But she left me with something permanent. Not just a story, not just the postcard, but the knowledge that I didn't run, that I stood up, that I mattered. And when life gets hard again, as it always does, when the pressure builds, or the path feels unclear, I remember her, not her job, her. And I carry that with me, even if no one else ever knows.